Hi, and welcome to the next tutorial of Deneir's Gate. In this one, we get to dive into one of the most exciting parts of Deneir's Gate, which is the story arc creation feature. Just like anything else in Deneir's Gate, you can get access to any of the different features along the side menu here. And so we see story arcs. And so from our dashboard, we can go into story arcs. And when you first get to this page, you should be prompted with a tutorial that'll sort of walk you through what we consider story arcs to be and how we organize them and structure them, which of course is ultimately up to you. But as far as working with the tools of the site, I can give an explanation now, which is essentially that story arcs are the larger super objectives that fill up the, I would say largest portion of your time, like in sections of the campaign. The large distinct sections. The fighting the vampire castle, in the westlands of wherever, or overthrowing the pirate king on Pirate Island. Those larger sections would be the entire arc, right? And once that's done, they move into their next arc, which may be to explore one of the players' backstories, or something completely unrelated. Obviously, it's up to you. And so, I guess without further ado, we'll jump into creating our first arc. So, as we know that we're working sort of off of the Lost Mine of Fandelver just as a reference point. So utilizing this, we can sort of look at the part one Goblin Arrows as what our first arc is. So I'll go ahead and supply that as the name for our arc. And for the description, I have a pre-written description that I sort of made up to give us a little summary of what the point of this arc is. But I'll also feel free to show off the magic wand tool here. So say you're creating a new arc and you don't know what you want this arc to be about. You don't have any ideas for this next section of your campaign. Well, we can use this the magic wand tool to sort of give us an inspiration of a new idea. So by clicking on that, here we have a full description, or at least the inspiration of one, for what our next arc could be. Now, in this case, I'm going to go ahead and delete this and utilize what we've already been creating, or again, using Lost Mine of Fandelver as a reference point. And so here we go. So here we have a little description. The party's hired to escort a wagon of provisions and supplies to Phandalin. They run into trouble with raiders from the Cragmaw tribe, and the party needs to find their leader, Clark, to get information about why they're attacking and what their next target is. Of course, I take some creative liberties here, but we see the idea. And now that we have the overview of what our arc is, what we want to compose our arc of is quests, right? The slightly smaller objectives that take up big ideas that build up together in order to make this arc. And in our case, I would say that the two quests that exist to make up the arc of Goblin Arrows, let's say, would be the Goblin Ambush for one. And for the description, yet again, maybe you don't have an idea for a new quest. And so we have our handy magic wand tool here to come up with a whole new idea, which is actually sort of funny because this actually almost in a way is what the Goblin Ambush is about. The hideout of bandits poses a great threat to the party and their friends. Partners figure out a way to destroy the hideout and remove the bandits of any respite. Um, it's funnily enough, I'm actually just going to leave that there because I actually think that fits what the point of the Goblin Ambush is. But so we'll leave that there for now. But of course, you provide any description that fits, and you can use whatever comes up in the magic wand tool yet again as a point of inspiration if you'd like. And so that's one. And we can go back to our arc now. And as we see, we get a little summary of what our quest is here. And say we need a little bit more information. We want to view things in it. We can always click on the information tab there and it'll show us everything. But for now, that's all we have. So that's fine. And our second quest is going to be Cragmaw Hideout, exploring Cragmaw Hideout. And we can just provide just another pre-written description here that we have for the hideout. And there we go. So we have a nice little description for that. And so if we go back to our arc again, we now see both of our quests there. And if you ever want to rearrange these in any particular order, like you actually want Cragmaw Hideout to be first, you can just click on the little arrows here, as you'll see in other parts of the site too that have the same sort of feature, and we can just sort of drag and sort these two quests to be in whatever order that we want them to be. But for now, I'll leave it for Goblin Ambush and Cragmaw Hideout. So now we have our overarching story arc, the larger quests that compose the story arc, and now we'll dig into the quests themselves. So let's go into the Goblin Ambush here by just clicking on the little pencil icon to edit it. And once we're in here, we see a sort of similar listing thing down here for events. So events are the individual events that compose our quest. So, in a sort of an overview, events make up a quest, quests make up our arcs, and our arcs create our campaigns, compose our campaigns. And there are many ways that you can do this. Of course, you can organize an arc to be as big or as small as you want, whatever makes sense to you. Same for quests and same for events. The way that we've designed it here for events is to think about events to be not necessarily so constricted on when and how they may happen, but to be fully prepared to happen when triggered, or when they may happen, or when they might not happen. For example, an event where the party has their inventory, or their bag of holding stolen from them. That maybe the party never goes to town, and so that event never happens. But at least you have the event, prepared. Or the event of the party actually being attacked. That's one, single event. The event where the king gets shot. Any of those sort of things that compose the quest, the major events that you're pre-planning for. That's what we're going to use to make, or to design our events to make our quest. So again, still working off of the Lost Mine of Phandelver here. We'll make the first event inside the Goblin Ambush to be the Goblin Trail itself, the Goblin Trail event. All right. And in here, we have a full text editor to provide any formatting that you want to do in order to give a solid description of what this event would be. Actually, in reviewing the Phandelver guide here, I would say that the first event would actually be the attack of the goblins themselves. So I'm going to make Goblin's attack be the first event. All right. And as far as the description goes, as you may be familiar with when working with pre-written campaigns, they're usually blocks of text that you may use in order to say this is what you want to literally say for your players, or quote a character, or anything of that sort. And you may do that in your homebrews as well. It's a very handy tool. We can always use this block quote tool here to sort of separate out the text of what we want to say for the encounters. So right here, we'll paste in some of the text here from the Phandelver guide. All right, and so now we have our little block of text that we may read for the characters directly. And then in between there is where we can supply any other text of descriptions of what may be happening during this event. In this case, I'd say that we want to allow our characters to maybe make an investigation check here. And so we actually have a little custom tool for that here to say insert skill check. So let's just go ahead and look at that. So I say insert skill check. And in here, we can select whether we're doing a skill check, a stat check, a saving throw, and use these drop downs to sort of make and design the skill check to lay it out to be as simple as possible. So we'll say a skill check. We want to make an investigation skill check. And at that point, we can create different levels as to maybe different pieces of information that they may find depending on what they roll. So in this case, let's say that there's a DC of say of 16. for 1, and that'll get them the most information. Otherwise, they have a DC of 10, which will get them some information, and otherwise some failure. So let's just go ahead and put in what the result is of each of these possible things that, the DCs of the check. All right, and so here we have if they roll a 16, we'll give them some information like the saddlebags have been looted, nearby lies an empty leather map case, or if otherwise they roll just a 10, or between 10 and 16, then they know that saddlebags have been looted, but I won't give them any information about the nearby leather map case. And otherwise, if they fail it completely, everything is messy. It's hard to determine what exactly went down here. And so I have all that. I'll just say add check. And that'll get and add the investigation check with its different possibilities nice and blocked out for me there. And in here, as well as anywhere else where we have the text editor in the site, we can do anything to mess with different headings, different font stylings, a bullet list, a table if you need it for any particular reason. Anything like that we can insert into here to stylize the text. But I'm going to say that this is good enough for now, as the main point of this is going to be the encounter that they have. Now, we go over the encounter builder a bit in the dungeon creating tutorial more specifically, but I'll go ahead and sort of speed through one here just to sort of show how quickly we can do it in action. So we're going to go to edit encounter. All right, so we have our encounter here. I'll just go ahead and Goblins on the Road is the name. A group of goblins ambush the party investigating the, or I guess the dead horses. That's good. So then we'll go to monsters. I know that I want some goblins here, so I'll just go search for them specifically. Goblin. And I know that we see 4 goblins here in the Lost Mine of Pandelver, but I want to make sure that this fight, based on how many party members I have, is easy. I'm not going to say super easy, but I want them to be feel strong and also introduced. It looks like if I go to 3, this fight's going to become hard, so I'm just going to go ahead and leave it at easy. And then for I don't want to give them any magic items, treasure. We'll just do a small amount of treasure. Look at that, 6 platinum. That feels like a lot for them right now. We have 12 silver. Okay, let's do 12 silver. That sounds fine. Cool. So we have 2 goblins, 12 silver. Sounds good. We'll go ahead and save that encounter. And that's all done. We have our encounter down here. And we'll go back into our quest. And that will give us enough for that event. And let's go ahead and make our second event here. We'll call this one Goblin Trail. And we'll go ahead and put in here just a little brief summary of what we have based in here. And by the way, just like a lot of the other sections, we yet again have our magic wand tool. If we need a new idea for event, something else to happen, we can always use this to get some inspiration. The party needs to find needs to stalk someone through a crowd event in order to find out where the hideout is. That would be excellent to use here. But I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of it and provide, just to follow a little bit more along the lines of the Lost Mine of Pandelver book here. All right, so we have that in there, and we'll go ahead and add another check here, a wisdom check. Get stat check, wisdom, and a nice DC of 10, not wisdom. We'll do survival. She uses wisdom. That's my bad. DC of 10. Let's see, 2 goblins have recently fled from here, heading south along the trail. Otherwise, you see footprints heading south, but you can't make out how many. I'll add that check. There we go. We have a nice survival check, and we have a few other checks that we can add in here. But I think at this point you understand the idea. So we'll go ahead. All right, and so we have that event done. We go back here, and just like the quest, we can rearrange these events in any order that we want, but I'll go ahead and leave them in that one. If I want to see more details about the event from here, I can always click on the information button and go ahead and see the event in more detail. But I'll go ahead and close that up. And now let's go ahead and dig into our Kragma hideout. All right, so let's go back in here. All right, we have a Kragma hideout. And as far as events go for the Kragma hideout, a lot of them will actually be referenced by the dungeon. Now, there's a lot of details we can give here, but I'm going to actually just use this as an opportunity to show off the Content Explorer. Um, and so, yeah, so let's go ahead and create a new event. And on the side here, we'll go ahead and re-expand our Content Explorer that we saw in the beginning. And this time we can actually check it out. So here's one of the niftiest parts that we have here at Deneir's Gate. We can navigate our entire campaign from this side panel here without ever having to leave the page to get new information that we may need while creating information for our quests or events or anything in the story arc. So in this case, we want to go navigate to the dungeons, as we've already created in another tutorial our Kragma hideout dungeons. So let's go ahead and click on dungeons there. And so we have our Kragma hideout. So we'll just go ahead and click into that one. And we get our summary of the Kragma hideout. We get its entire layout here. And as well as some information. Of course, the dungeon gets a little expanded, but that's okay for our purposes. So we're gonna go ahead and look. We can look through this information, get any things that we need about it. We notice the bear trap, the goblin bind, where you have the entire encounter there. All those sort of things are here, but we can use these as reference points. So let's say, for example, that we have this little uh, what's the word I'm looking for? A text that we want to read to our players once they access the cave mouth. So we'll say cave mouth here. Oh, I guess two words. And so we already see it at one, which is the cave mouth. We have the goblins in area 2 are supposed to be keeping watch. With enough noise, they can notice the party attack. So we have a brief summary of what happens, but let's go ahead and add the general event at the cave mouth here. All right, so we have that in there. And just for fun, let's say that we wanted to include something from one of our players here. So we can navigate the entire Content Explorer here using the little directory at the top. So let's go back to our home and dig into our characters here. And good old Pietro here, we'll go into him. And do we have any interesting logs with him? No, we don't have any logs yet. Let's go into his backstory. All right, so in his backstory here, we can sort of double check some of his information. So the parents were enslaved, forced to grow up in an orphanage, and what they wanted, they could charm. So maybe that'd be something fun to include here would be to say, um, uh, Poyeto can recognize the symbol on the clothes of the raiders. These are the same monsters who enslaved his parents. Right? And we can get that information nice and easily. And of course, we can navigate literally everything of our campaign through this content directory here, from other story arcs to characters to the relationship trees. Any of those things. So like, for example, we can go back into Poyota and a character, check out his relationship trees, and we have his family tree here that we created, and we have his mom, his dad, and we can get their information right here. We can get anything that we need with with relative ease, all from right here. Any if you have a master subscription, you can check on the monsters, the magic items, dungeons like we've seen, trap settlements, all that information we can get from right here. So for now, I'm just going to say that this is good enough for our quest. I'll go ahead and save the whole thing. And now that it's saved, we can also at any point print our arc. And so once you're all done with it, here we now can take this to the table with us. And we've seen this same feature with characters and dungeons and those things. But we have the entire thing laid out nice for us, nice, organized, ready to read out at the table, not having to fiddle with these screens or different pages or anything like that. We have it all right there. Yeah. So I personally I love that feature a lot. The last thing that we can show with our story arc here is the area map, and so there's a lot of cool things that we can do here. So let's go and upload an image, not necessarily for the entire campaign, but just something that sort of represents the arc that we're in here. All right, here we go. All right, so we have a little map of the region that we're sort of messing around with in this arc. And then what we can do is sort of similar to what we saw in the settlements tutorial, we can attach our quests to sort of pinpoint them onto the map itself here. So the Goblin ambush, let's just go ahead and say happens around here, just outside of the Neverwinter wood. And let's say that the hideout, well, let's just say that it's sort of across the river and deeper into the woods over here. All right. And so now that we have that, we can go ahead and go back to the arc. And that is it. We have successfully created our entire first arc using Deneir's Gate's story arc system. And so everything from creating and inspiring ourselves for descriptions of the arc, the quests, the events, building encounters, all of those things, and then straight up to printing it ready for the table. So that is going to be it for this tutorial, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks.